So recently, people asked me to help review their speedruns to point out their main problems and where they might be losing time in case they're starting to plateau. So, to help people break through some standard time thresholds, I thought I'd make a series just reviewing some submitted runs that are just a bit off of some big common time thresholds, like Oblivion Diary sub 50, which is also Sanity and Valiant's Diary, sub 45, and maybe sub 43, etc. These are going to be pretty in-depth, and I'm going to call out most of what I see, but that doesn't mean all of it has to be taken to heart. Sometimes they're just small little one-time mistakes, and that's fine. At the end, I'm going to try and summarize the biggest issues I saw in the run, so I'll put the timestamp on screen here, but keep in mind, not everybody at the same time bracket is going to have the same things to focus on. This is just an approximation. I might do these on stream, we'll see if we get some more runs submitted, but today we're looking at Iris's 4534. It's really close to the sub 45 threshold, and the setup's pretty standard. 3-way Scythe, thralls, 1 brew, 1 range pot. I can get behind all that, and it's pretty much default for this time, so let's just get into it. Okay, blowpipe spec, insta death charge, very good. Only thing I'd say here, you can click a little bit closer, right? I mean, if you know you're going to scythe these nibblers instantly, because this is the second chin, he gets a decent XP drop, he knows he's going to instantly go for the scythe. He decides to click next to them, but obviously it's a little bit far. Doesn't lose any ticks for it, but, you know, I've seen people lose ticks for it, so if you're going to scythe them and you already know that, you might as well click a little bit closer. Really not that big of a deal, though. Late on the piety, but not that big of a deal. It's nibblers. Generally, you're going to hit anyway. Okay, so bit of a miscalculation on the HP of the nibblers. That's fine. I'm assuming it's probably because he got the Slayer XP drop for this bat. It's whatever. I'd say the bigger problem is if you hit a bat, you should generally try not to jump between them. So this one's already taken 23 damage, right? If you can one-hit this, the odds of one-hitting this bat is a lot higher than the odds of one-hitting this bat, right? And ideally, once you have a 3-way or greater scythe switch, you can pretty much just instantly scythe bats from full HP, and it'll save you time. Because if you scythe the bat from 25 HP, it's probably like a 60-40 odds to one-hit it. Whereas if you're going to blowpipe it from 25 HP, well, you might 3-hit it, you might 4-hit it, right? So generally speaking, blowpipe the lower HP one, scythe the higher HP one once you have enough switches. And given that this one has literally 2 HP left, I'd just say, you know, you don't want to jump between bats for the most part. And that's pretty accurate even in like higher waves where you have 2 bats on you. It's like you're going to take so much more damage if you're just jumping between bats instead of just finishing one off. Gets lucky, one hits that one, miscalculates the HP of the nibbler. That doesn't really matter that much. Okay, so I don't know how common this is, but another miss piety, right? So this is late, but I think you've all heard it, you know, piety's like 7 melee switches, so try not to miss it too often. But otherwise, good solve, you know, 1 blowpipe because it's too far, insta scythe, very nice. Misclick on the bat, sucks. Everybody hates clicking bats. Wasn't sure that they died. Ooh, so miss piety again, this time on a melee mini. Melee minis have more melee defense than all of the others, so real chance that you could have not one-hit them here, but you did, so I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but it's just, you know, you gotta call out everything there is. Misclick nibs because they're hard to click. Everybody hates nibs. Click the dead one, also hate that too. Nib still alive on 1 HP, one hit it. Okay, so this is good because he gets this XP drop. He knows this blob is dead. He switches from the chins back to the blowpipe because he was thinking about chinning it, but then he goes back to the blowpipe because he knows If you T-bow a blob from max distance, you can get one blowpipe off and you'll still be able to chin right after. Generally, that's the best tick cycle. Doesn't take a step left, so they do lose the clump. Not too good, but still early wave, so it doesn't really matter that much. But yeah, if there's anything better to do here, pretty simple. You get the T-bow, get your step left. So you step here, these all clump up. I'm assuming he probably thought he was standing there and he just didn't notice, so it is what it is. As we said earlier, not that big of a deal. Okay, so split nibs, waits for them to clump, doesn't kill them. You don't have to chin this. You saw the XP drop, but the chin is pretty understandable here. The same thing with the two bats, I would say, applies to blobs as well. If your last monsters in a wave are two blobs, you don't want to jump between them because blobs don't have that much HP. Takes 4 ticks before the mini blob spawn. If you kill one blob and then you hit the other one from full HP, there's a decent chance that you might just 2-hit it with your blowpipe. But if it's like 50 HP, or if it's 50% HP, half health, like this blob is here, the odds that you just flat out one-shot this and lose 2 ticks for it is considerably high. I get why he's hitting this one, because this one is optimal for pathing, because the mini blob's going to move over, but if this blob's already half health, personally, I'm just killing this one, and then I'm T-bowing that one. Because then you'll get the chin here during the spawn over there, and then that'll spawn, you can chin that one too. It's not that big of a deal. So, kills that one, almost one hits it, which is the problem where we were going to address earlier. Almost one hits. So, here I'd say the second this blob dies, you should instantly be pathing over here to this tile so that you can keep this one clumped in case it does pop. It doesn't, but you should have that pre-movement down just because you want to be able to capitalize on good RNG. Obviously, if you're not moving and you do max here, then you just end up with a clusterfuck of minis, and then it's a bit of a problem. So one hits. If you're in this position, you should pre-move here. You pop this, there's only one left, just throw a chin at it. Odds are you probably kill it. Even if you hit a 0, your thrall's still up, so you might get that too. And then you have this clump going, so. Good adaptation though. He knows to blowpipe and then chin the stack. You can see he only loses a tick there, even though it's unclumped, so best thing he can do really. So that's understandable. Sees the XP drop, notices these nibblers, okay, there's probably one left. Thrall hits it. So he wasn't ready for that. Instantly chins the melee, that's good. It's not as good as a blowpipe, but getting a hit off as soon as possible, because obviously he's not going to react to that, is much better than not doing anything at all. So this is good. Has full spec for the melees, love to see that. Speccing melees, always better. Pretty much one of the best things you can do until you have like 5-way claws. Misses Piety so he doesn't get the kill, but the thrall gets it. Really works out pretty good. Okay, so a spawn like this is, we'll just watch to see how he finishes this and then we can talk. Okay, so the second you see this spawn, you know that you need to be over here to kind of finish. If you want to get this clump, you want to be over here. And moreover, if you want to safe spot this bat, because whenever you have a bat and melee, one of your best scenarios, if they're the last things alive, is you kill the melee and then you just blowpipe Scythe the bat. Super good mileage. Rarely lose any ticks. It's super easy to safe spot this if you just go over here. Right? So whenever you see this sort of scenario, you just want to be on the opposite side of the bat, because then the melee is going to body block it. But the added benefit is this is actually a spawn where you'd be able to chin this melee on top of this nibbler if you're quick enough. and the melee lives long enough. So you'd be able to get over here, and then you could hide behind the pillar, and then the melee would drag up. But so we lose out on not getting the blowpipe Scythe for 0 tick loss. And then on top of that, we have this weird scenario where he kind of wants to get closer to the nibbler, but he doesn't want to drag the melee. And then we have to like blowpipe this. So this is also kind of weird because once you start getting to like 3-way, 4-way switches, generally speaking, if a melee has like 10 to like 25 HP, I think it's more consistent to blowpipe finish the nibbler and then Scythe the melee. Either way, the wave ends at the same time, but I think blowpiping is much more consistent because the nibbler has negative defense, and trying to blowpipe the melee, which has a lot of range defense, is going to be, it's just not as consistent compared to almost guaranteed one-hitting this nibbler and then scything it with 3 rolls and higher max hit. So once you start getting to like 3-way, 4-way Scythe, generally I'd say 10 to like 25 HP melee, definitely blowpipe this nibbler and then go for the Scythe. Okay, so double bat spawn, just one hits both of them. Unlucky. So I can understand not leaving any bat alive here because sometimes you just don't want to lose your run energy. That's fine. You can do either. You can tank it and blowpipe, and I wouldn't really mind that, or you could do this. I also don't really mind this because trying to safe spot this is pretty annoying. But I'd say the bigger issue here is whenever the second you see this first bat dies, honestly you should just get closer to the melee. Because in this position, let's say you 3-hit this, let's say you just 3-hit it, right? This is going to be a drag. You want to give yourself the best opportunity to capitalize on good RNG. Because, I mean, if you're going for a particularly fast time, by nature, you're probably going to hit pretty hard. So, in positions like this where this melee has a lot of distance to close and there's no cost to just walk in closer, right? It'd be a little different if something was hitting you or there's a reason that you couldn't get close, but here there's literally no reason that you can't just like step closer to it. Because if you 1, 2, 3, if it dies right here, then you're dragging. Even if it dies to this one, you're still dragging, right? And even if it dies to this one, you would still probably drag. So in cases like this, if you're gonna do this same solve, just blowpipe this, get close. Or take step north, that way it's not going to drag. Because it'd be trapped on the pillar. Melee lives, bad RNG, but still early in the wave, so it's not that big of a deal. Finishes good. So he clicks the blob here, and in this particular scenario where you've been dragged out by West Nibs, you want to click the melee because the melee is closer. You're not going to lose ticks. So you see he can't reach this blob instantly because of that. So here, click the melee, right? This also isn't even a big deal because the melee usually has enough HP to tank it. It's not like you need to have this melee with a lot of HP. Pops the blob. Oh, okay, positioning is weird. In this case, if you're gonna pop this blob first, you should stand like, south of it so you can get this clump. You'd get the stack, you'd keep the minis clumped. It's pretty good. This is like one of the best spawns you can get, and he's not really capitalizing on it, so to speak. So now these minis get unclumped, you get this weird shit where you have to like chin this on this. One hits those. This is understandable that he wasn't ready for that, because I didn't think this was gonna die either. That's a max hit. But yeah, if you have a choice when you get this spawn, dragged out, click this melee. Then you want to move here, pop this blob, double blowpipe this melee, and hit that. And just, get the big chin. Big chin, nice, big chin, good. We hope for big chins. Misses a tick just a little bit. Misclicks, it is what it is. Personally here, just kill this bat. I don't tank this blob here because this melee has enough health. So I guess early on we'll just cover the ideal scenario for these melee blob last scenarios. The best case scenario you can have when you have three-way Scythe is generally to have the melee on like half health. You don't want this melee full health, because if you have it full health, most of the time you'll pop this blob and then you'll blowpipe this melee and it'll have like, even if you maxed 34, it's still gonna have like 7 health left, right? And then this blob would spawn and then you'd probably chin them, or else you'd have to tank. So if you instantly one hit all of the minis, then you have a melee last, and that's obviously slowest death animation, kind of sucks. Your best scenario, your ideal thing that you're aiming for is to kill the melee either while the blob is popping, or with the chin while the melee is clumped on it. So to get that scenario, in most cases, this melee can't be full health. It needs to be like half-ish. And that's usually a good scenario to have it on, because usually you just don't want the melee alive last, is the main point. So for this, there's no point in like trying to pop this blob first and then like hit this bat, because blowpiping this is perfectly fine, which also means it's perfectly fine to kill this bat before you pop the blob. So in a case like this, personally, you save a little bit of health by just killing this bat first, because there's no reason to tank this bat while you're killing this blob, because maybe you noodle 6 times on the blob, right? You wouldn't think it happens, but it happens a lot. So might as well just one hit this bat. Don't have to tank it. Can kill this. So here's this scenario. Here's this exact scenario that I was referring to. This melee has 2/3 of its health left, and if he throws another chin here, he's probably going to kill all of these, right? And then what do you have? You have a melee last, right? And that's just time loss. So your best scenario is, for this wave, is you just one hit that bat, blowpipe this melee maybe like once, twice, get it a little bit low, and then you can pop this blob and then do this. You don't have to lower the health of the melee, but generally speaking, avoiding scenarios like this is not bad. So he's got this left, right? It's kind of a weird scenario. Now he has to Scythe it. It's a little bit late on the Scythe. Like ideally you go right over here. There's not much point in clicking closer to it, because obviously you can Scythe from there. So loses 2 ticks by not Scything a little bit earlier. Very understandable mistakes though. Like I don't want anybody to see this and think like, wow, like these are perfectly understandable mistakes for when you're approaching like sub 45, and fixing these is what's going to get you to like sub 45, passing those thresholds, and then getting down to maybe even sub 44 or faster. So if he doesn't one hit these, he twisted his camera. I think he was ready to go for the chin if it happened. But personally here, I'd say we kill these bats, because there's no. Your ideal scenario is you can pull this melee over here and then chin this together, right? And to do that, you know this melee is going to take 10-15 seconds to walk over here. Ideally, what you want to do is you want to stall for time, and stalling for time here without losing ticks is killing these bats. These bats are already annoying as it is. They're going to drain your energy. You can't really pray against them. So in a case like this, T-bowing this blob isn't terrible, and he one hits it, but I see this and I just wipe out these bats a little bit. I might blowpipe this melee once to get it a little low, and then I'm gonna do all of that while dragging this melee over here so I can get this clump. But he one hits it, so this is one of the problems, right? He one hits it with that. Now he's got 2 bats on his ass. He's also got this like unclumped problem, and it is what it is. It's not particularly clean. It takes some damage because minis kind of beat our bricks off, but okay, so definitely don't kill the bat here though, because this is very easily safe spotted. Once again, always opposite to the bat. you can body block by standing anywhere south, and this bat won't touch you anymore. He'd also be able to get this chin off with the melee. So like in this case, you know, just step here before killing the bat, and this would be fine. Chin's too early, a little bit too quick, too trigger happy, and that's a pretty common theme for a lot of people. Once again, same scenario as earlier. He's too far from the blob, but he's not too far from the melee. You either path diagonally instead of straight south, which personally I would do. I think generally I'd just path more diagonal here, but if you don't path diagonally, blowpipe the melee ones here. That way you don't lose the ticks. This is fine. Getting into position, you thought it would die, that's fine. Get the chin, no big deal. Good that he goes for the mage, but does he lose a tick for it? So he loses a tick for it. Maybe worth, I don't know, not that big of a deal. Well, yeah, generally just try not to lose ticks, but that's an understandable mistake. You know, sometimes we just lose time to reactions, and that's all there is to it. Can't really blame anything there. Good Scythe. Although personally, you don't always have to Scythe minis. Sometimes it doesn't pay off. I like this. Blowpipe the far one. Too many people blowpipe the close one, and then they get a drag kill, or they're late. They might, if it's like wave 49 instead, then they get a melee digging, right? Always blowpipe the far one, not the one hitting you. So this is good. I like this. Okay, so generally speaking, if you want to dump your specs on the melees here, because melees have the highest defense, and the spec is most meaningful on melees, basically. But he does a good thing because he realizes this melee is too low to dump his spec, so he just goes for the Scythe instead. That's nice. So, very, very suitable split for this. Sub 45 potential, looking good. So instead he gets the spec for the range. Not as good, but it hits a 46, so pretty good. Holy, that's a big Scythe. So with a three-way, we'll just calibrate this pretty early. For me, my ideal Scythe threshold on a three-way switch is 41. So if you see 41 here, this is good. 46, also acceptable. 50 is a bit high. You have to get a little lucky to hit a 50. So, I like this. I personally don't agree with this on a three-way. So, whenever you have a position where a bat is safe spotted behind any monster, but in this case a range, especially behind a range, don't kill the bat first unless you have a pretty good melee switch. I'm talking like 4-way plus potted, like recently potted, or like 5-way better. Because, so if we're gonna look at this, the short answer is basically killing the ranger and then blowpipe scything the bat is more consistent and generally I would say a lot better. But if I'm gonna give you the reasoning for it, so let's say this ranger is like perfect HP to Scythe, right? If you want to one-hit this bat, that would delay your Scythe on this ranger by 2 ticks. So that means to get the same amount of time, you have to kill this ranger 1 blowpipe hit earlier. So if your regular Scythe threshold is 41 HP, let's say your average blowpipe hit is a 15, now you have to Scythe this ranger from 55 HP to make it worth, right? Or 56. And that assumes that you one-hit the bat. On average, you're not one-hitting the bat. So really, if you have a ranger and a bat behind each other, if you choose to blowpipe the bat, on average, you probably have to Scythe a 60 to make this worth. And you're not doing that with a 3-way. So Like, if you have a 4-way and you're max potted, I guess. If you have a 5-way and you're Rasta man trying to play for max potential, understandable. But in most scenarios, until you at least get a 4-way and are like recently potted, it is just not better to blowpipe the bat behind it. Especially in a case where here this ranger is already too low HP. This is probably like 50, right? And if you have to kill this, so it takes what, 2-3 blowpipes before you can do this, right? If he's gonna scythe this ranger on a regular HP of 41, to make this worth, he probably had to kill this bat, let's say 2 blowpipes earlier. Let's account for that, right? So he had to scythe this from like 70 to make that worth. That's just, I don't know, I can't justify it. And we're gonna see punished immediately, right? Because he kills the bat, goes for the scythe doesn't even kill it. So now he suffers the scythe delay. This is immediately time loss. Thrall kills it to minimize a little bit of it, which is not bad, but that's a big problem I see with a lot of people. Gets that, that's nice. Doesn't kill the nibbler. I mean, obviously, you know, you don't have to chin that. You can just blowpipe them. You have the time to get through. Good scythe threshold. No problems there. Just personally, you know, blowpipe it. This is probably the worst spawn you could get. So like this actually works out really well. I don't think T-bowing is yeah, you know what, T-bowing might be the best option here. I think he actually did the best option. I wouldn't have thought of that, because assuming assuming this doesn't die, it's probably not that bad, but that's good. That really is, this is pretty perfect. So the T-bow allows for that to line up perfectly. They still live, so he's got this. So he doesn't lose it. He doesn't really get punished for that chin, because he's going to chin those anyway. But nice wave, works out well. You know, Scythe very early, but so yeah, just want to be a little bit more diligent with, you know, checking reactions. Personally, I like to move the HP bar a little closer, because you got to look here and then you got to look there, right? So you can see 71, 48 XP. This is guaranteed not anywhere in the 40s. This is like 60. Scythe, not gonna kill it, is what it is. Just be a little, I mean, this is gonna happen during everyone's runs at least a couple times. But, you know, as long as it's not super prominent, then it's not a big deal. In a case like this, you can throw this chin from anywhere, so you might as well get close to the blob when you throw this chin. That way this doesn't unclump, because he doesn't one-hit these. Now he's got this weird clump. This kind of sucks. Might as well hit the bat first instead of going for these nibs. After all, usually your pillars are pretty healthy, so it's just bad luck with the scythe. Not a big deal. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. Okay, so good. Just to keep them lined up. That's unfortunate, but I don't think he could have. I didn't even predict that, so like, is what it is. Bit unlucky. A little late on the scythe. I can kind of understand that. He was probably distracted with the bat. Okay, so in this case, no point in going behind the pillar. The distance, but I'm assuming he's trying to go behind the pillar to try and drag these things in, but this is a spawn where these two are already close enough that it's not that bad, and you're going to be blowpiping. This is the perfect angle to blowpipe these two, right? Because then the melee's going to path through, you get your big chin. You try and do this, you're going to like put stuff off tick, and you're going to, it just ends up being a lot. It's too far to blowpipe, so you see he doesn't even really get a blowpipe off here. Right, so he loses like 3 ticks there because of that. There's no point in doing in going for that. Sometimes you just gotta take what you gotta get. Stand in the middle, in between, pop this, double blowpipe, chin. And I mean, I don't even think I had to say it. I'm pretty sure he knew after the second he saw you couldn't blowpipe it. Definitely, as soon as this happens, don't path down here anymore though. Like the second you get this chin off, you should be pathing over here again, because, well, you just want to close this distance, and you want this ranger to still have HP left to scythe, because scything for the last hit is going to be the best, right? Right now, 41's already the best HP to scythe on. It's 26. Now it's 15. You're going to pop this, and you don't even know if this is going to live from like 2 blowpipes, right? So pops this. Now we have to go for like a very, yeah, like this is just not, it's just not optimal situation to be in. But rule of thumb, when possible, keep the ranger with enough HP. Leave the ranger with as high HP as possible, because you want to be able to scythe that on good HP at the end of a wave. So the best way to solve this wave, just you get the chin, stand here, pop this, double blowpipe, chin, deal with whatever's here, and then you come back up here, and then you can do the same thing. So you can pop this, probably blowpipe, chin, deal with these, and then you can scythe that, instead of trying to drag everything and then kind of having this problem, and then blowpiping this ranger too much, and then we have to go for a scythe on a blob. So once again, just diagonal pathing here. He wanted to finish the nibs, which is good, because they went to fucking Narnia, but he just needed to follow them a little bit closer, because otherwise he wouldn't lost ticks. And then it makes him chin, and you know, just one little thing causes a lot of smaller problems. But yeah, no reason to not diagonal path there. There was nothing in the wave that was going to scare him off of doing that. Once again, just a little trigger happy. I think he's probably, you know, not super sweating it right now, so I understand that, but, you know, if you want to play super clean, then you just hit the ranger a little bit here. He just wanted to dump the spec. But it's very good that he dumped the spec on the melee, because, you know, that's going to prevent the most amount of variance. Split, still sub 44 pace, pretty good. Scythe early. Did he? Yeah, 60, that's early. I mean, everybody's going to scythe a little early every now and then, just kind of how it is, but as we want to reduce it as many times as physically possible. Unless you're like going for absolute max potential, where you're like 1 in 1,000 RNG. So, you know, blowpipe spec melee, deal with the bats, safe spotted, really pretty good. Scythe on good HP. I think he's a little scared there. Yeah. Okay, so this is just kind of like a little bit of execution error. There's no reason to not... So I think he's a little scared of getting meleeed here, so he loses a tick while doing this, but you can do... So personally, I would say just finish the melee here, because there's no merit to having this melee alive anymore. It's too low HP, that's not getting clumped on anything, right? Because it's not going to dig in time to get lured over here, and you're not going to bring it all around the pillar. So this melee has zero potential for a clump. You might as well just kill it right now. So you'd kill this, and then you'd pop this, and then you can just deal with the ranger, and it's not that big of a deal. Alternatively, if you really wanted to... I don't know why he wants to pop this blob this early, but if you want to pop it this early, that's fine too. You can pop it, and then you can do the little addy step down to keep this in a clump while you blowpipe that, and then step back out, chin these. But personally, I say just kill this melee, makes it the most simple. Because now he's trying to pop this blob, so he loses a tick running from this melee. Now he thought this would die, and he's kind of hesitating because now when he steps out, these two are same ticked, so he can't pray. Take 6 damage for it, but could have been 30, right? So we pop this, not that big of a deal, but now he has to path around to make sure this melee doesn't dig, because he's kind of scared, right? And in the process of trying to path around, he wasn't ready for it to die, he loses another tick. Alright, so keep it simple for this wave. You safe spotted, this is not getting clumped down on anything, just kill it. Instead of trying to path around, losing a couple ticks here. So he was probably ready, or I don't know if he was, but you know, he saw the XP drop, switched a little early, but if that wasn't a one hit, you know, you get that chin again. So this is actually a very good solve, or I think pretty much as good as it gets. Whenever you get a blob that spawns in this position, you're not going to lure any melee that comes from any direction except for directly north. No melee is getting clumped on this unless it digs or unless it comes directly north, because if it comes this side, it gets trapped right here. And they're too big to slip through this crack either. So in cases like this, he leaves the range with a lot of HP, good, pops it, and then blowpipes specs the melee, very good, very good. Tries to off tick, okay, well, a bit unfortunate with the misclick, but I get what he was trying to do. Otherwise, a good solve. Because in cases like that, you might as well just finish the melee. There's, you know, you're not getting any clump on it, so there's no point. Bit late on the Scythe, he realizes that. So just be a little more proactive here. If he remembers that he hit it at the start, there's no reason that you shouldn't just be pathing this melee next to the ranger, right? Whenever you have to close the distance on cases like this, these rangers don't have that much HP. So he's closing this distance and he's not ready to Scythe. Now, he's already lost 2 ticks because he didn't Scythe on 41. And he's losing another tick because he wasn't ready to Scythe instantly, so you could chalk that up to losing 3 ticks just off of that. This is a pretty terrible spawn. One hit this, that's cool. You can T-bow the blob a little earlier if you want, but doing this is not bad. If you aren't going to leave any bats alive for this though, you just have to be ready to Scythe this, right? Because otherwise, like, what are we're just going to waste time by standing here, so you might as well Scythe this. Lure this over, it's pretty good. So when, it's very small, but like, he sees 100 XP drop. As soon as you get this is a pathing formation where standing here is okay, but like you can literally move, you can move another tile and the melee will still get clumped, right? And sometimes it's that one tile that really matters, but it doesn't really matter in this case, so I'd say you should just chin this a lot earlier. You blowpipe spec, you're already in range, you should chin this, because now look at the HP on this. This is, right? Even if these died, it had like 10 health. That would have been like minus 2 ticks. But they still had health, is what it is. Just another benefit of chinning early, right? The second he does this blowpipe, if he chins these, he'll probably blowpipe this again, he'll realize the chin will land and he'll see, oh, these nibblers are not dead, right? So he won't have to deal with this scenario where not only is he scything this on 10 HP, but he also isn't forced to react to the fact that these nibblers aren't dead. So generally, just do things as early as possible, because there's no reason to not. Like killing this nibbler, I also don't think is worth. Like, you see this spawn, you should try and deal with this here, because this is the insta-clump. The way this melee paths is, you want this nibbler here to close this gap, right? Because this is a big gap. And on top of that, if this melee doesn't die, that's also clumpable. And even if this, I don't know if this gets dragged over actually, but basically you don't get any merit from killing this nibbler right now. whereas it could be something used to save ticks. And yes, so it actually, if he leaves that alive, those nibblers get clumped with that blob because it got dragged over a little bit. So generally speaking, this is not a solve where you need to kill those nibblers early. It's just a waste of 2 ticks. So this is good, you know, loses some ticks, but that's in that setup, but that's pretty standard. Generally, sometimes it's just hard to like click precisely with those because it can be really annoying. I like that he pathed. He chose to like manually path not to break the formation in case he got dragged poorly, but does lose a hit for it. Scythe on 50, acceptable range, a little bit high, but you know, sometimes it's hard to react to a small XP drop. So I see this, and this is a solve where you instantly blowpipe the nibbler, because you know it kind of sucks to like get dragged in over there, but you know this is not that big of a deal either. Just chinning that is not as useful, you know, because you can blowpipe that. Unless you're gonna clump this, there's no point in not chinning that, or there's no point in not blowpiping that. Yeah, so like this whole north clear scenario, this is all a little too scared of the melee here. You know, I personally don't like anytime you have to... Staying out in the open and just flicking both of them is a lot better than trying to go behind the pillar and then re-off tick them all over again. And that leads to this whole fiasco with him, like, it might die, it kind of dies, and then like he has to lose a tick here because he doesn't want to like same tick them. But once again, okay, little late on the reaction, loses a tick for it, but he gets his throw makes up for overkill, so it's not that big of a deal. Once again, you know, these are all small things, but okay, good, yeah. I was gonna say no point in really pathing south. But they're all small things and it's not that big of a deal, but if you can, I'm just putting it out there so that if he could fix every single small thing, it would be, you know, you might as well know about all of them. That way you can fix 50 of them and you'll save like 2 minutes, if possible. Good reaction on that. Usually I double chin, but if you see 315 out of 320, it's like, you know, there's only one nibbler left, so. Good reaction there. He does the little addy thing with the the insta-T-bow to save some ticks in certain scenarios. Ooh. Okay, so that's just pretty unlucky, honestly. Yeah, it's not a good spawn. It is what it is. I mean, split 1403, still sub 44 pace. As you can see from the plugin, pretty good. Low HP. Ooh. Okay, yeah, this is... yeah, this just kind of fucking sucks. They're really unlucky here. In a case like this, I can respect trying to go for the insta-Scythe, but it's not worth. I mean, one, your odds of one hitting the bat aren't guaranteed. It's more likely than not, but the thing is, if you insta-Scythe this, you save 2 ticks, right? The fact that you're not already, like when you're hugging this pillar, it's not an insta-Scythe, you have to run towards it. You're already losing one of the 2 ticks that you're going to save by not just blowpipe scything, right? Because if you blowpipe scythe, your odds of killing this bat skyrocket. It goes to like, I don't know, 85-90% probably. And contrary to like just scything it for like 60%, the benefit you get from insta-scything instead of blowpipe scything is halved. You lose half of what you get from doing that, right? And it's like probably, I don't know, 30-40% less consistent. So overall, just not worth going for the insta-Scythe in this position. Just take the blowpipe, just take the blowpipe Scythe instead of trying to do that. And on top of that, you also had to react to this, which made it super hard, right? But this is an unfortunate scenario, right? You hit a 2 on 4, and this didn't die, and then you hit a 0, and then you hit another 0, and then you hit another 0, and then you finally got the right. Like it kind of sucks, and you get drained. You got drained twice. So this was really it was very unlucky, and you got drained again. That's wow. Yeah, no. Yeah. This is peak RuneScape content. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Revive right on the. Okay, so once again, another kind of what I said earlier on the melee double bat wave, but if there's no cost for doing something that will put you in a better position, you should just do it, right? And I get that. I mean, everybody already understands that, but putting it into practice just requires a little bit of extra like effort, because it's so easy to just kind of like, oh, you know, I don't really have to do anything on this wave. I'm just gonna chill, let my brain and let my hands relax for a little bit. But in cases like this, right, just stand closer to the blob, right? Because you're losing nothing for it. And now we lose a tick because we weren't standing closer. So, yeah, you know, you might as well just do it. Also, the other thing too, I'd say this is, you want to get out of this habit of blowpipe, of scything after a 0, right? I could, because you're only using the 3-way, I can understand not wanting to scythe blobs from absolutely full HP, because it's significantly less consistent than a 4-way, but at the very least you should wait for an XP drop, or a decent one, because you'll certainly get the most mileage out of scything blobs from full, but you either wait for an XP drop or you scythe from full no matter what, because, you know, doing it after after a 0 is essentially just wasting time. Because if you just scythed it from full, you'd have saved 2 ticks, and if you didn't manage to one-hit it, then you'd have, you know, lost more time. So I didn't describe that very well, but I don't know, it's kind of late here. But that stands for more than just blobs, you know. You don't want to be scything after a 0 on anything. You don't want to do it on melees, you don't want to do it on... The only thing that it's excusable for is bats. Let's say you're doing it on a bat right after a melee dies, right? But like rangers don't scythe on a 0. Don't scythe immediately after 0. Melees don't scythe immediately after 0, unless it's like already too low HP. So this isn't bad. I'd say if you're going to dump your blowpipe spec on the mage, it's good that you just dumped it because you knew you had the spec regen. But personally, don't dump on the first blowpipe. If you're gonna pop a blob and then double blowpipe a mage, it makes sense to dump while it has higher HP, but the thing is you want this mage to die anyway. So if you get this XP drop on the first blowpipe and you know, oh wait, it's probably dead, you might as well not waste your spec, right? So I personally, in this scenario, I dump my spec on the second blowpipe if I get a 0. Or if I get a 0 on the first, rather than just dumping it on the first spec. And because, you know, maybe that second blowpipe hits anyway. So like in this case, you dump this spec and like this second blowpipe doesn't even do anything. But I like where your head's at. And really, like, the significance of that is pretty minimal. It's just, you know, once again, small stuff. Okay. So this kind of sucks. But you can make this wave not as bad by... So whenever you get a bat spawn directly here, you can safe spot this bat if you immediately move enough to the right. So you can see it's very close here, but because you're pathing too far south instead of moving west, this bat doesn't get safe spotted. Now you have to deal with it. Sucks, right? So the second you saw this spawn, I get that you clicked here, but then you should have tried to instantly correct by like clicking a little bit insta left or insta west. That way you wouldn't have to deal with this bat. Then this bat that's coming towards you, you'd probably have to kill it, but you know, killing one bat's better than killing two. Or if you really wanted to safe spot that too, I'm not sure, but you could, yeah, no, you could potentially stand here. And then this bat might get caught on that. We'll see. Nah, yeah, I don't think you're really gonna make that. You had to path instantly west, but whatever it is, you'd want to, you know, you see that south bat spawn, take a dive to the left if possible. In this case, it's possible, and then you would have saved yourself having to deal with this. Or after this, let's say you miss this bat and this situation is devolved to this already, right? Nuking both these bats is perfectly reasonable. I can expect that. The other one too is you can kill this one and then stand here, and then this bat will be safe spotted. So you don't get double revive, and you'll have the bat safe spotted. You can deal with them like this. But now that the situation's devolved to this point, you are perfectly capable of just nuking both these bats, and that's fine too. Although I would say in this position, like I said earlier, if there's no cost, you should put yourself in a better position. There is no cost in moving over here right now. Because if the mage respawns a bat, this bat's spawning over here. Generally they spawn like closer to this side. But they'll never respawn right here. So right now there's no cost to moving in a position where this bat will be safe spotted on respawn. So you might as well move there, or I don't know, any place that's a little bit more favorable than the middle of the room. Yeah, as we covered earlier, scything minis, melee mini has a little bit more melee defense. If you want, no hate to scything them, but if you have a choice, then that would be the one you'd choose not to scythe. This is a solve where, okay, so your pillar has so much health. Personally, not worth killing these. So let's cover this. The basic solve is you kill this mage and then you have this double blob scenario, right? Where it's kind of rough. Sometimes it's nice to have something to hit to make sure that you don't end up in a position earlier where like one blob is half health, and because maybe you thought it died and it didn't die and it has like 1 health. Having these nibblers to hit instead of like hitting this one down to half and then hitting this one down to half and then you just end up missing ticks, right? It's nicer to just have something that can sandbag ticks to allow you to react better. So that's a simple solve, but the optimal solve is there's a lot of ways to just lure this blob into that clump. So one of them is you can stand more north. You can move more north steadily, and this will drag in a diagonal path to lure itself right onto this. That way, whenever you pop this, you can kill this blob, and then the nibs will be clumped with that. Alternatively, you can also just stand here, right? You hide behind this pillar. I don't think this mage might get dragged or whatever, but you can probably do that without dragging it. This blob is just gonna, try and hug the pillar because it can't see you, and then you can clump that again. So these are 0 tick nibblers to kill. Killing them early here is pointless, and it's just losing 3 ticks. But once again, that's a very reasonable thing I would expect from someone who's like approaching sub 45. Once again, path better, right? Because now you need to, the second you pop this blob, unless you are right next to it, standing right here, all of this area is equally as beneficial, right? I could stand here, I could stand here, I could stand here, I could stand here. It doesn't matter where you stand, as long as it's northeast of the blob, then you're getting the same amount of benefit. So in a case like that, why are you standing here instead of right next to this one where you might keep this clump engaged, right? Because now, as we said earlier, you 2-hit this blob, now you're unclumped. Well, you could still path into that, but like now you're dealing with this shit. And you gotta like blowpipe this one, you gotta blowpipe this one, you gotta chin that one. And it's like, what the hell is going on, right? Whereas this is so much easier if you pop this one, you start coming close. You pop this one, oh, if, let's say this melee doesn't die, you can pop this and you just throw a chin over there. Easy, right? This melee does end up living though. This is even easier, because then you can just stand here and this melee will walk into that clump. It'll save you even more ticks, because then you don't necessarily have to blowpipe it. Although I think you still probably would, because you'd have to cover this distance, right? So yeah, you got to cover this distance. You just blowpipe and then chin instead of having to do this. Basically, pre-move. Pre-moving in a position where there's no cost. Because standing here does nothing for you. That standing here doesn't also do. Second this died, you should have been pathing right here. Or up here. Really, your choice. But, yeah, just make sure you're pre-moving better and you move in positions where there's no cost. So, now we're starting to notice some like prevalent themes, right? So I'd say you're a little trigger happy here again, because there's no need to kill these that early. I mean, I think you realize that too, right? Like you literally just walk them in, but it's not a big deal. You missed probably like the equivalent of like maybe like 2.3 ticks or something, probably. I don't know. A little more than a blowpipe. This is also a position where this mage has so little health that you could blowpipe this mage and then scythe this melee, and it would probably be better than just blowpiping this melee entirely before you kill this mage. It's different if this mage has like 30 or like 20 health, but when this, or even 40, right? Because you can still blowpipe and then scythe and you'll probably hit a 40 between both of those hits. But in a case like this where this mage has like 4 health, the odds of you blowpiping this in one hit is like better than not blowpiping it in one hit. So you might as well blowpipe this and then scythe this from like 20 HP instead of trying to blowpipe this entire thing down and then scythe that. Right? So like guaranteed we can already tell you what, like if you were lucky, then you could have blowpiped this and then scythe from 30 and you would have got it, right? So you'd have lost 2 ticks, but you'd have saved 1, 2, 3. And if you were moderately lucky, then you guaranteed probably would have scythed on 17 and got it. But even if you didn't get it on 17, you 100% would have got it on 2 HP. So essentially you're losing out on the 3 blowpipe hits worth of time. But as always, this is once again better than nothing, right? Because you killed that and then these 2 died at the same time. So your solve is actually a pretty good one. It's just not the best one. So I want to clarify, like these are not bad moves. It's just like, here's where you can improve. This position is also like, you see this on spawn, you know these are dead. So once again, you're already opposite to the bat. I get the sense to run south, but you don't have to at all. You just want to be in T-bow range, and then you just flick this melee, right? Because this bat is not going to touch you. So you can just flick these 2, and this bat will never touch you while you're in T-bow range. And if you want to walk closer to blowpipe this, in case it ends up being low HP, then what you would do is you would walk diagonally, so as to not unsafe spot this bat, basically. So you would T-bow this, get meleeed by this while you're flicking, and then walk diagonally. Because like right now, like you already suffer a punishment for this. So like you tried to instantly run south when it was unnecessary, and you got insta-drained. So that's already a problem. It's not a big problem, but you know, it's unnecessary loss. you're 15 seconds off of a thing, I'd just wipe these bats out and probably go south. Because generally, this is a bit of a... This is a pretty shit spawn. South mage with 2 bats right in the middle. It's not very fun. But yeah, you could have been potted for the blowpipe spec now that you have the safe spot. Oh my god, that sucks. Very good thing that you did is hit the back one. We love when we hit the back one. Sucks that this was alive still on like 5 health. That's just gonna happen sometimes. There's really not much we can do about it. Sometimes we just miscalculate. But blowpiping the back one, very, very good, because when you blowpipe the back one, you can insta-sight the front one whenever you know you get the XP drop, and you don't have to do the additional pathing movement forward. So I know Iris knows this, but if anyone else is looking to beat sub 45 time, and you have a double bat stack, you always blowpipe the back one. Or, well, you don't have to, but it certainly makes it significantly easier. This wave was most definitely one of those unlucky ones. That's unfortunate. Oh my god, this is ballsy. Yeah, that kind of sucks. So tries to click the nibblers, clicks the dead one. We do hate it when that happens. Going for this, I think some people would just kill the melee and sack it. That's kind of understandable. It's obviously not the best, but it's understandable. This is a little more risky, but is what it is. Tries to click the melee is fucking hard to click. I can't blame him. Personally, so when you run into this scenario, right, this is a super easy melee blob setup, which is you just, speccing this melee is probably pretty good, but I would like T-bow this blob. Basically, as soon as you can, you T-bow this blob, because when you pop this, then you get to blowpipe this, or you get to chin that, and you maybe even kill the nibblers up top, right? But it's a free clump, essentially, that you're missing out on by killing this melee early. Plus, it also gives you, you know, the distance to run, so you don't have to worry about all this weird shit where, like, you're trying to flick the blob, but you're trying to flick the melee, and then you lose another tick because you're like, you wanted to flick the melee and make sure you didn't die, which is understandable. You're scything this, but there's nibblers alive. But unfortunate, because you zoom in right when they're coming in the camera angle. But does he realize? Does he realize? Bit of a shame. Is what it is. Sometimes that's gonna happen. No real fault of your own. That's just sometimes that happens. Okay, so best solve here in a situation like this, when you get this melee spawn south with south nibs, insta chin, perfect. You can T-bow this. You can T-bow this mage, and then you'll be able to chin these nibblers as the melee is walking over this way. So you would. The best way for DPS is to chin, T-bow, stand over here, somewhere here, and then chin this clump together. However, there's a bat here, so the second acceptable option is to just instantly kill this bat. And then if you want, you can try and also get the clump, but it's not necessary, as you would have to put yourself on an odd tick. So here, blowpiping this, unfortunate. But I can't blame you, because like this is I don't like this spawn either, so sometimes you just like instantly try and blowpipe. Oh, I understand. I like that you went for it though. I do like that you went for it. So in the future, if you want this setup, basically 5 ticks. You need to wait 5 ticks on this south spawn. So whether that's a blowpipe chin, whether that's lose a tick double blowpipe, whether that's T-bow, right? But whatever you do, it has to be 5 ticks before, when moving over here to do this. So you nuked the bat. I like that. I do like getting rid of the bat. Bit of a panic here. I can understand that. You know, it wasn't a favorable position, so nothing much to say there. Wow, that's a chin. Holy. I don't even know how this is gonna go. Please tell me you do this. Oh, unfortunate. Truly unfortunate. Well, it's... Oh, no, don't kill the bat. Oh, no, hit the melee. Oh, no. Okay, well, it is what it is. Sometimes it happens, you know. Be ready to chin. Oh, unfortunate, but understandable, I guess. Not optimal, but... Because you're gonna lose a tick on this melee death anyway, you might as well just bullpipe this and then throw the chin. But I can understand that. Sometimes when they sit on 4 HP, you just think it's gonna die and it doesn't. Oh my god. So I can understand not kind of having the sense of urgency here, but you really don't need to. I think you're just a little distracted after the last wave was a little hectic, but, you know, in a scenario like this, you know, you might as well just T-bow that instead of, like, losing a tick and having a lot of emphasis on this because your pillar has so much health. Generally, I would say... So the lesson from this is most runners, even at the sub 43 level, even at, like, the sub 45, sub 44 level, prioritize their pillar too much, because the amount of times people get to 66 and their pillar is too healthy to even collapse is, like, I've even seen Rasta do it, right? And there's a lot of times where he kills both mages and the nibblers are the last thing left, and it's like that's suboptimal because, well, one, obviously you would prefer that the nibblers just die with 0 tick loss, but even if you run into that scenario is so bad because T-bowing and then having the nibblers last is worse than chinning the nibblers and then T-bowing, right? But at the same time, you don't know, like, if your pillar's a little bit off of dying, you kind of want to leave that. So you put yourself in this weird predicament when you make your pillars overly healthy. And I would say this is one of those scenarios where it's like that lead to it, because, well, I'm just going to take a guess and say that your pillar ends up being way more healthy than it needs to be at the end of the wave, because we're on 47 here, and, you know, you don't need to be prioritizing your pillar this much. If anything, you could have even clumped it with the bat, right? Like, the pillar health is almost always chilling. And in cases where it's not chilling, you can usually just hard focus nibblers at like 63 plus, and then you'll still be okay. This melee is gonna dig. Yeah, sometimes it's hard to be aware. So here, you know, just path a little better. We can, instead of going straight south, I'd say this diagonal path keeps them in line, and then you can step again. It's 2 paths, and this melee will clump with all of it. Contrary to, like, this, which is going to take 3, it's going to be a little hard, and then we kind of miss a chin. It still works out, but, you know, this little diagonal 2-step is going to be a lot nicer. I think this was just, you know, like, once again, a little distracted because the wave was a little hectic, so it's going to happen. I'm sure I will watch one of my runs and then it will be pretty much, I'll make the exact same type of mistakes, because it's always a lot easier to talk about a run in retrospect. I mean, 1 hit the melee, or 3 hit the melee too quick. Once again, though, like, I mean, we were talking about it, but, like, you're prioritizing your pillar way too much, right? Not only did you chin it, so you lost a tick here, but you also lost a tick kind of pathing. You got punched by a blob here. Just leave it. It doesn't, right? Because we're gonna get to 66, and I'm going to. I mean, I'm not gonna bet money, but I'm gonna take a wild guess that your pillar has too much health to collapse. Yeah, so this is a perfect example of why I said, like, leaving nibblers alive is a good thing. Now you have a situation where 2 blobs are low HP. In a case like this, it's beautiful to have, like, nibblers alive. I mean, or in the example of the other wave, right? Where the nibblers were south. Sometimes you just think it dies, I thought it's dead. It's not dead. And then you max on the other one, and you're like, well, fuck. No matter what I do, I'm going to lose 2 ticks, because I'm going to pop this one, I'm going to blowpipe this, and then I'm going to be stuck here with my dick in my hands, right? That's where having a nibbler alive comes in handy, because then, like, let's say the nibbler was still down south on that other wave where I talked about it. You could kill this, and then pop that, and you'd lose 0 ticks, and then you could pop this one and chin that. Or you could pop this, hit that, and then throw that chin, and then clump, and then you'd be able to get everything. But basically, those nibblers are insurance for ticks. If things go wrong, they can cover you. And if you're gonna do this, right, you should, you know, once again, just better pre-movement, I'd say. And does this XP drop? I mean, you know this. I don't know if you're betting on the thrall to get it here, but yeah, generally I tend to avoid betting on the thrall unless it's very, very likely. And I know that the thrall is going to hit, so this is a bit of a problem here. And also, if you have a choice, you should so here you throw this and then Scythe, you have much better odds of blowpiping and then throwing the chin, right? Because you're going to save that tick from, it's the same death time, because you lose a tick by chinning and you save a tick by scything. But this one is more consistent because you're going to blowpipe and then chin, and it's the same time. You lose a tick from the travel delay, which honestly you wouldn't lose that tick at all if you were standing closer, but your blowpipe's just going to be more consistent and have less punish associated with it. So here we can see that punish comes to fruition, lose a little bit of time for that, generally just a little trigger happy once again. So, you know, once again, trigger happy, didn't do the blowpipe setup, because you could have got that chin off of that. Especially in this, like, you don't even have to feel pressured to do the blowpipe chin, but at the very least just like blowpipe this, and then you can lure this back in, right? Because this chin is like, you don't have to hit this chin right now, but you can certainly prayer flick this, lure it back in, and then into the safe spot even, and then just chin it there. So no matter what, chinning this is just a flat minus like 2.5 ticks, because you didn't get it clumped with the melee. Yeah, so in a position like that, this is where, you know, as I said earlier, pre-move when there's no cost for not doing so. This lives on 19 HP. It's better to blowpipe, right? Why are you not over here? There was no cost to moving over here, right? So you would have been able to blowpipe that, hit it with a more optimal weapon, and you still would have been fine. Also, please move. I like that you're once again blowpiping the far one, but this might dig. Might dig, didn't dig. So good. But I mean, I think the mage died fairly early, so the odds of it digging were pretty low, but like in a position like this, no cost to standing over here or here and then getting both of them to melee you just to ensure that they don't dig, right? If there's no cost, there's no reason you shouldn't do it. And there's no cost to doing that, so. Also, no cost to just standing still here, but like you kind of move and then watch drag. An unnecessary risk that you're taking there. So, I mean, there's ways to do this off tick a little bit better. I can kind of understand that, but the optimal solve is to pull it by 1 tick and then set that chin up, right? So I can very much understand this, but if just in case you want to know, the second you saw that, you should run into the distance of this mage, because you know this melee or this ranger is not going to hit you the same time because it just attacked you, right? So you could throw the chin, instantly run out here, this mage would see you, they'd be off tick, and then you can chin those together, instead of having to end up in this weird spot where like, okay, I think I can make it, but I'm not really 100% sure, so then you just play it safe and wait for it, right? So you lose some time there. And it's not big at all, by all means. It's not particularly important, but that's the little stuff that keeps your runs a little bit cleaner. And 50 to 57 is a notoriously hard time segment. So this might be what helps you trim it down from like a 6-minute 50 to 57 to like a 540. And if you can play every wave optimally like that, then you'll be consistently getting like 520, 510, sometimes 50x, or even, you know, you'll see some of the better runners get like 450s with the right RNG lining up, right? So this is the first step towards it, you know. Oh, I took that range hit, doesn't matter. I'm going to instantly run into range of this mage because I know it's not going to hit me in time and I don't want to lose any ticks for it. Plus it would have saved you the chin, so you know, just basic stuff that you'll get as you get more adjusted with it. Okay, so understandable. I like your awareness, knowing that standing here, this mage is going to see you because the south pillar is still active. The only difference is obviously you could have been blowpiping this bat while you waited for it. So it's a bit unfortunate. Yeah, you won't ever have... The reason this mage sees you is because it's caught on the south pillar. So the second you step out of range again, it's not going to be able to see you because it's going to move past the south pillar. So, I mean, obviously you know it now, but you cannot walk back into line of sight if you step behind the pillar and step back out, unless you go like all the way north, in which case you're probably going to lose ticks. So in this case, you know, the real thing is you just should have just like blowpiped this bat once and then like done this again. But stepping back here was your downfall. And the second this happened, if you wanted, instead of stepping out, you could have gone to this side. But I understand that in the moment, you know, this is hard to come up with in the moment. But in the future, you know, if you ever notice that, if you ever step behind this pillar, don't expect this mage to see you again, unless you step all the way north. It's much nicer to just stay in the line of sight and then come out whenever you're ready. Late Scythe, probably like minus 2. Yeah, -2. So this is another good example. There is not much merit in having to chase it down, right? Because it's so far south, there's double bats you gotta chase, that's gonna suck. Maybe you go for the chin, but that's honestly probably not worth. So in cases like this, you might want to keep a mental note that like this corner tile is good to safe spot stuff, but most of the time, if you don't want to miss ticks, you don't want it safe spotted. You want it to see you fast. So in that case, you don't step on the corner tile, you step any of these tiles. This one might be a little rough for the range, so you actually take this diagonal, or take this L movement a little bit more north, but generally the more north you are, this ranger will see you, and you'll be able to instantly attack it, instead of trying to chase, because this is a very rough spawn. Double bats in the middle, and you wouldn't have even been able to instantly blowpipe. But you get the chin, so that's cool. It's a shame it didn't one-hit it. So like understandable, but I'm just gonna tell you, like, you know, this the other way is significantly more comfy, significantly less damage, and you're not gonna risk the chance of both of these bats reviving because you're gonna have to kill both of these bats. You'd have just had them safe spotted behind the pillar while you blowpipe this, step out, T-bow that, because it'd be closer. So you're gonna kill both of these. We're gonna see how this goes. You lose like 25 HP. A bit unfortunate, but it is a very shit spawn. So bad spawns. Lose some ticks in the transition. Once again, late Scythe. It's important to keep in mind that, like, just because you noodle with your Scythe does not mean that you don't lose 2 ticks, because if you noodled earlier, you would have still saved 2 ticks. So scything late is always a big problem, generally speaking. So like, let's say you noodled here, instead of doing this blowpipe, sure, it would have had 21 HP instead, but the odds of you scything this 21 is incredibly high, and you did off of your XP drop, so it is still -2. And that is why one of the biggest things is we always want to Scythe earlier. Or Scythe as on HP threshold rather than later. You already know about this, so you stepped here, that's good. It just would have been good to implement in the other waves. Good 2-tick set, very nice, very nice. Killing the Nibbler was fine, yeah. But personally I think your pillar is more than healthy. Obviously T-bow is not the optimal weapon. You lose another tick for it. But still an understandable like compromise. I wouldn't blowpipe spec a ranger with that little health, right? Waste of DPS because you max. Well, you don't even max. You hit moderately high for it, and now you'd be scything on 20 HP, right? So I reserve blowpipe specs for things that have relatively high HP and melees. Usually not the last monster alive unless it has a lot of HP. So, I mean, very minor, but you know, you can take one step forward here. There's no cost to taking one step forward here, but the thing is you save yourself the possibility of getting punched. Because you tried to do this, that could have punched you. And, you know, maybe you get hit at 29. It really fucking sucks when that happens. Bit unfortunate that melee didn't die. I can understand you just blowpiping it, that's fine. But, once again, you want to be ready to pre-move, right? Just a bit of a reaction thing, but like now this has 54 HP, 16, you hit a 0. So like that, we go back once again to the whole concept of not scything after a 0 unless monster has way too little HP. So like here, this makes sense to scythe after a 0, but like ideally, we technically take the punish here. So even though you would have been scything below optimal range, at least if you scythed after a 0, you know, you wouldn't have suffered the punish of noodling here. Scything after a 0 generally just kind of sucks. Although we understand, I can definitely, it's the right thing to scythe here. And scything late is a I don't want to make it sound like scything late is just a problem here, because like everybody scythes late every now and then. It is a problem that we should always be trying to get better with. Personally, I think the solve is to just come out this way, because this is fairly free. You would have been able to blowpipe this, step forward after, and then you would have lost a tick probably, but you can step out, you know, handle it like this, walk around the blob so you don't get punched. Now you risk a double bat respawn, which is one more than necessary, but we'll hope that doesn't happen. And lose a couple ticks in transition, but yeah. I'd say that was you're trying to play it a little too safe, and I kind of understand that. Past wave 50, sometimes it's pretty nerve-wracking. Maybe that's not the word for it, but holy. But yeah, sometimes we want to play safe in the 50s. So occasionally you'll miss ticks like that. Nothing I can really tell you there except, I don't know, I guess a little bit more practice. I'm assuming you're scything here because you want your HP back. But as always, you know, wasn't optimal threshold, just have to put it out there. Okay, so here's a bit of a weird problem. Yeah, so you've put you have 2 blobs on 2-tick cycle. You have 2 blobs on differing cycles. So no matter, the only way to flick both of these blobs at the same time is to 1-tick alternate. But you have this mage and range on a 2-tick cycle, so you can't 1-tick alternate. This is one of the problems with this. So like, I understand the desire to miss as few ticks as possible, but this is a position where you have to make sure these blobs are set on 2-tick. So you should have waited here and then manually set them, or you should have walked out here when this mage was a little closer or something. You should have gone out of your way to specifically set these double blobs on a 2-tick cycle, and you should do that anytime past 50 double blobs. So like 56 and 63 namely. Whenever you step out, put extra emphasis on making sure these two are 2-tick. Either that or have these 1-tick, because this is a scenario where no matter what you do, you have to tank something. In which case you're tanking a blob. Oh, and your defense is reset too. This is a... Yeah, so you realized, but you nuked this mage, so you got lucky here. But keep in mind, you know, okay, so in this case, I hit the blob. That way, because you can hit this blob and still keep this clump. You can't hit this ranger and keep this clump. And if you're going to do this, you might as well blowpipe this blob so that this melee gets clumped in there, so you save your ticks back. But because you blowpipe that, it's just a flat 2-tick loss. Yeah, if you can control walk, this is nice. But just make sure you're still in sight so these don't get dragged out of a clump. But the moral for this wave is most certainly double blob waves, you have to make sure that they're on cycle if you're going to set the mage in range 2-tick. If you don't really care and you just put them 1-tick, that's fair. You can do that, and that's also acceptable. So this is a bit of a rare one. Oh, yeah, so it's off the south pillar. That's not happening anymore, right? Good brew, though. Very good brew. Sometimes people... You can also, I mean, we said it earlier, but you can speed it up by walking all the way north. You don't have to take 1-step, 2-step, or whatever, right? Just if you know it's too fucked, just run all the way north. Don't like take 1 step and kind of like wait. It's like, can he see me now? Just run north. But yeah, obviously, the second you kind of saw like, oh, I've taken my step back. This is no longer going to see me. Come around this side. And if you want to insta-solve it, personally, the easiest way is to just you don't want to wait. You don't want to be waiting to... Oh, well, okay, I guess you're doing that. Well, personally, I would just say step out here. You know, you step out, and then this is going to see you a lot quicker. So once again, another scenario where it's like there's not really much cost to not like, I don't know, I would have just like tried to hit the chins. But the second you saw like this mage was dead, like we're just kind of standing here, right? Because you get this XP drop and you're just kind of here, right? Like what were you gonna blowpipe from there? The melee was in a problem. Even if it didn't dig, you wouldn't have been able to instantly blowpipe. So I'd have just been ready to chin as soon as I saw the XP drop. A little bit a reaction problem. It is what it is. These are all things that tend to happen a lot more 50 plus, just because it's like, oh my god, you know, like everybody gets all the nerves 50 plus. So dive back to the north side. Good. This way you don't have to tank the bat. Nice. Little late on the blowpipe switch is what it is. Blowpipe spec a ranger, personally I would try and you know, save the spec for the melee. Especially in a position like this where it's like, what, this melee is, yeah, there you go. There's the dig, that pillar goes down. What do you have, right? Now you kill the melee last when you had a bat at a range and you had a pillar. In a case like this, it's so easy to just like, I don't know, maybe you could start moving over here and like try and deal with that. If you wanted to save the pillar, you could move, right? There's nothing to do but pray range here, so that's free. Alternatively, you can also step here. You could one hit the bat instead of trying to hit the range and then like go south, so you could not tank the bat while you flick the melee, or you could just tank the bat and flick the melee and then kill the bat, right? It's, either way, there's not that many things here that you can do like that will punish you that hard, except for not touching the melee. the higher the wave gets, it's just like the more and more prevalent you're going to find the melee digging problem is. So, you know, miss some ticks on the transition. There's no problem with just like blowpiping the ranger down a little bit. There's also like too much emphasis on this pillar, right? It's like, okay, yeah, I mean, it's got 2/3 of its health, and I'm pretty sure there's a south pillar alive, and we're on like 58. Like, if anything, you want your pillar to take more damage right now. Good save spot. Don't see enough people use that. Very, very good save spot. Oh, that's gonna hit you though, yeah. So when you do that, you do want to path diagonally, because it is more north than you're expecting. And the way it passes around the mage is it's gonna walk like that, so. I mean, really not that big of a deal. Blowpipe spec hit a 43, nice, we like that. Lee, I think this bat is actually half HP, so it's not as good, but we didn't step out. Once again, I think we're a little bit, we're just, you know, reclining. Like I said earlier, I think when there is no cost, you should try and, it does take some extra effort, and believe me, I know the desire to just kind of want to like rest your hands and like chill a little bit, but definitely it is costing you a significant amount of time that you are just kind of like reclining in between, and that's fine. It's really up to you whether or not you want to put in that effort, because there are plenty of ways to save time that don't involve that as well. But this is a good example of it. The other thing is when a bat has half HP, so like the whole blowpipe scythe thing is dependent on the HP, right? I gave the little spiel earlier about how scything a bat behind a ranger is like killing the bat first is really bad if it's already safe spotted. That applies if it's a full HP bat, of course. So this is not a full HP bat, therefore you can totally just blowpipe this and then try and scythe this ranger, because the odds of you just blowpiping, the odds of you needing that extra 2 ticks to scythe on the bat is significantly higher when it's full HP. If it's half, you're probably going to one hit it. So at that point, you're losing a lot of the mileage that you get from not just scything this bat, or scything this ranger earlier. That being said, I can't really hate on finishing it this way either. So, this is a spawn where you kind of just have to dive out there. You know, it's so far south it doesn't see you instantly, but like, you already know you tanked this, so like, a general tip is if it's the farthest south spawn, this will see you if you instantly run to the last tile of the pillar. So you see these two hit you instantly, and this is the mega far south spawn, you basically just instantly dive south. Because then you're going to spend so long waiting for this to walk up here, and hiding behind this pillar isn't doing you any good because you can't really hit anything. Because this is really a shit spawn. Well, it's not really that shit of a spawn, but it's a shit spawn to like not lose ticks on. So you're going to end up doing this, and you're probably going to lose a lot of time, but the best solve is obviously you see this, it's the super far spawn, you have to instantly run south so that this can see you on time. And you might have to end up 1 tick flicking, but that's not a big deal. You're going to T-bow it, you can 1 tick flick and stand here, and this melee will probably get caught in your blob. Instead, we're going to stand here. It's going to, yeah, pretty rough on the time, but comfy at least. So this is a comfy solve, the way that you approached it. It just loses a couple more ticks. Okay. In the future, definitely. I mean, I guess it dug pretty early, but that is a chin, right? That is a very easy chin to set up. You want to off tick this and start moving instantly. Yeah, because now you're just standing here. You already lost the tick, and you did a chin instead of a blowpipe, right? Like in cases like this, there's no point in not just... You should be moving over there. You have so much distance to close here, and you are not covering it. So then now you're going to lose a lot of time doing this. Generally, it's a lot of be aggressive. The faster you get, the more aggressive you have to get. You lose some ticks there, lose a tick there, it is what it is, right? I understand the desire to set them on 2 tick. It's going to save you time long run. I'd watch out about blowpiping this, yes sir, because anytime you, unless you nuke this mage, which you didn't, I mean you hit pretty hard, but I wouldn't classify this as like a nuke mage. Right? Yeah, what is this? I don't know, 6-7 T-bows. If you have to kill a mage before you work on the melee, this melee is going to dig very, very quickly. So I wouldn't, anytime, unless I 3-hit this mage, I would not rely on just hitting this melee. I would either instantly be trying to get hit by it to stop the dig, or I'd go hit something else and wait for the dig. Relying on this not digging before you kill it is just going to lose you time. You almost 3-hit it and it's still, right? So, a lot of time lost to that because you were waiting for it. Good time on the prayer, but, you know, it cost you because you didn't do the step back and because you were waiting on the prayer, so... But I understand, you know, sometimes you really want to get the most out of your shield. Okay. This is a pretty bad spawn. There's no real way to deal with, there's no super easy way to deal with this. That doesn't make it a little bit AIDS. Now you can just, yeah. Oh, okay, so. Yeah, a little bit of, a little trigger happy on jumping out there instantly, but have the right idea. Blowpipe spec something so you get your death charge worth. Yes, sir. If you want, honestly, you could even kill this ranger. I think you might do that. Yeah, because this mage has so little health, doesn't really matter. Still not flicking the blob on the off cycle though, so a bit of a shame. I mean, this is a case where I just T-bow that because you can T-bow and you can cover all that distance, and it has like 1 blowpipe health. You probably wouldn't get meleeed. I mean, you wouldn't get meleeed, so. But it is what it is. I mean, generally a pretty rough wave. A bit of a shame. I think this would have gone... I think your mindset was fine for this, but the problem is you just got a little trigger happy on stepping out instantly, and then this 45 kind of made you panic. And then what? Are you off right from the start? Yeah, you're off right from the start. So you're just kind of tanking this blob the whole time. Like this time, I think you probably thought you were flicking it correctly, which is why you didn't bother to check, but definitely we always try and check as soon as possible. The second you have these set 2 tick and you're in a safe position, your first priority is always look at the blob, tell whether or not you are flicking them properly, or whether or not you need to change cycle. Because all this happens and you're still kind of like, you're still flicking it wrong. So that's why we're still taking damage, and then at this point you're just kind of panicking, and you've already... It's like, oh god. But you get the brew, so at least we don't die there. Generally pretty understandable. Most runs have a little bit of scariness near the end. Okay, so this, yeah, has devolved a little bit. Let's take this back from the top. This is a case where you don't need to, you kind of panicked. And I get it, probably because you're 30 HP, but you see this and yeah, you need to try and off-tick this range. Because this melee is safe spotted. Really, this is not a scary spawn. It's just scary because you had a very hectic wave right before it. But like, this is actually like super free. Because you see this and you know this is off-tick and this is the mega far spawn. So you actually have a pretty decent predictor of when it's going to hit you. You see this hit, all you really have to do is step forward again. And then, stay behind the pillar, wait for a... Just make sure you set this other blob 2-tick when you leave the pillar, pretty much. So all you really had to do is step north, or step, forward. But now you end up in this weird position, and because this melee got here, there are times where you can see this, and if you notice the melee like right here, actually no. Yeah, sometimes it works if it's not the melee, but this is a position where, okay, you have no choice, but you have to really like do this, the little 2-tick thing. Good job stepping away from the blob. He is on tick, which is nice. This is a bit of a problem, but he made sure he set them 2-tick again, so this is good. We're chilling. Little punch, but it's good that you didn't get punished for it. I'd say we killed this blob first. I mean, you can do this too. It is honestly, given how low HP you are, this probably is the better play. But if you had more HP and you pop this blob and then this gets clumped with that, so that's a chin, you don't even really have to stand there, right? You can stand here and it'll still walk through, that's a chin. And then you can pop this one, this melee mini will come over here, and then you get a chin with everything here, so you get another big one. But once again, not really something I'm expecting you to do with that little HP. Just putting it out there in case you run into a future scenario with more HP. So I don't think you're potted. Oh wait, yeah, so you're not potted anymore. It's hard to account for that, but you do have to Scythe significantly lower. 33 is fine, but just keeping that in mind for the future, whenever we Scythe, if you are unpotted because you had to brew, you're gonna have to lower it accordingly. So honestly, leave these. Don't even. I think you realize, although this is scary. Nice, yeah, leave these. There's no point, and I think you realize that, which is really good. You can transition to that. Honestly, hitting that, I don't think you had to. You're probably gonna have to leave a lot. You're gonna have to hope your nibs go to this pillar on the next wave. And also, like, there's no reason to not be like tanking one of them here. Yeah, it's scary. So like even more ticks lost because of it, right? But once again, I put this in my guide, but if you have a choice, don't come out this side, come out this way. Because now you have to lose a tick walking out, which is more unnecessary tick loss. Where do the nibblers go? They go south. Okay. So now you're really going to have a problem because on 66, your pillar has so much health. I think I called it on like wave 40 or something, but this way I pretty much said this pillar is going to have too much health because you're prioritizing it way too much. And you're losing time for it. It's one thing if you just kill the nibblers early and lose potential time, but you're also losing time in your transitions. So not only are you suffering the lost potential from, not missing chins, just missing chins really or whatever, but you're also losing time because you're transitioning between like killing the nibs and then hitting something else, and you're losing time while you do that too. So stop prioritizing your pillar so much. Not to say like don't prioritize. Oh, holy, wow, maxed, unlucky. Not to say don't prioritize it, but obviously like worst case scenario, your pillar gets a battering, right? Guess what? On 63, 4, 5, people tend to underestimate how easy it is to save the pillar, because you can throw solid 2-3 chins before these pillars even do any significant damage. So generally speaking, if you just hard focus nibblers, you can really save your pillar even if it's on super low HP. So you shouldn't feel this priority to wipe out nibblers if it's not going to do you any specific merit. And you definitely don't want to be doing it if you're going to be losing ticks in the transition. So this is a redemption angle if you want. I mean, you do have the prayer for it. Probably blowpipe this. Oh, a couple misclicks is what it is. Chin, yeah, so lost a tick in the transition once again. Ooh, yeah, so redemptioning right as you Scythe probably would have been the best idea, but understandable. Very understandable to not do that as well. You're not standing in the right spot, but it's fine, you don't really get punished for it. Okay, you do get a little punished for it. Okay, you get punished for it, yeah. This is pretty scary. But yeah, I would say you're losing a lot more ticks in transition than you should aim to be losing. You're kind of, damn, that was yeah, that does suck. You definitely could have redemptioned that. Unfortunate that you just shielded. But yeah, generally we should try. The thing is, I don't want to tell you to. So this is exactly what I actually was talking about earlier when I was talking about having 2 low mages with nibblers. It is slower to T-bow both of these and then finish that with a chin, right? Obviously, because if you chin that and then T-bow that instead, you save 2 ticks than T-bowing, and then chinning. So it's better to chin this and then kill these. But it's so low HP that you're scared, like, what if I just leave it, right? So you end up in this weird predicament where you're sat here, you're not even ready to chin this, right? But you're just kind of killing this and you're like, oh, well, what the hell do I do now? Now you're losing ticks running across, right? That's what happens when you prioritize your pillar too much. You have way too much health, you're not controlling it properly, and then you end up in these very odd predicaments. Ideally, you want your pillar to be like under a third on 64, because 64 and 65 you tend to have a lot of control with how much damage you can take it, and then you can just kill your nibblers whenever you want. Or the other scenario is if you can't get your pillar that low, make sure it has a lot of health, because if it has a lot of health, then at least you don't end up in a situation like this. You understand, okay, I have to kill these nibblers first thing, because they're not going to kill the pillar at all. You can at least farm the 2 to potentially 4 tick time save of chinning this and then scything the last mage, because then you'll save 4 ticks, 2 ticks from, you know, not T-bow chinning, and then another 2 ticks from actually scything, and you don't lose ticks transitioning trying to run around the pillar to try and hit them. So you know, once again, small things, but that's how this works. So we can see the predicted time has slowed down a little bit. The 50 plus was definitely a little rough, but it's understandable. Everybody tends to lose time around there. Damn, I'm kind of curious how you live. 2 dose brew and 11 HP. Good rigor and buckler on for the chin. This is like underrated. Obviously we didn't have to chin 2 extra times, but rigor plus chin on when chinning healers, that damage is going to reflect onto the boss. You don't want to do this, not just because, so pathing these, this will never like drag the healers in, because the vertical movement prioritizes over the lateral movement, but so you need the healers directly under, like directly in front of it. But the other thing is you are also losing another tick by having, I mean, outside of it also healing, you're losing a tick by causing this excess projectile distance. So you need to be 1 away from it for it to die on, for the hit to register in 1 tick. Because you ran 2 tiles away, it's going to register another tick late. 1, 2. See? So, we lose another tick to that. In the future, try and stay close for the finishing kill, finishing hit. Nice. 16 damage. Good safe spot. So this is a case where I can tell you kind of want to blowpipe spec it, which probably would, yes, okay. Now, if you're gonna do that, I don't think single blowpiping is not worth on 7 HP. Personally, the odds of this, you high roll it here and you get lucky, but I think the accuracy of this is like significantly lower than just throwing a chin at this. Because obviously you roll the defense of the healer, the odds of chinning this and one hitting it from 7 HP is way higher than the odds of trying to strike a blowpipe. If you were going to spec it, I understand. The spec would make sense, but single natty blowpiping this is crazy to me. I don't think that's worth on 7 HP personally. If you have a chin, throw the chin. And then doing this, like on top of that, you lose, like, you pass accuracy roll for this, so you don't really lose ticks, really, but I consider that losing ticks, because like 6 out of 10 times you're probably going to hit a 0 trying to natty blowpipe. So like I'd consider that losing ticks by natty blowpiping this. You do 4 ticks loss probably. Yeah, you know, once again, just be a little bit more ready for it. In this case, you want to hit the blowpipe first rather than chinning the far one, because, you know, you save the projectile time. That could save you a little bit of a misclick is what it is. But if possible, blowpipe this one, chin that one. Just to save time. Maybe it saves you a heal. Okay, so once again, okay, yeah, it works out. 19 is a bit of a threshold. I think someone said 19 is where you should like start chinning, but I'm still like, I don't know if I really believe the 19. I think if it's like a little lower, 19 still probably fine to T-bow. In this case, some people prefer chinning Jad. It probably makes sense to chin Jad because you would tag both with one chin here, and that might prevent a heal, which is good. But you know, chinning healers, obviously in your case it paid off very much to chin the healers because you high rolled both times. 29, 31, fuck, you might as well have been T-bowing. So once again, wait for the healer to like get to you. I understand you're low HP and you don't want to get like punched in 18, but in the future, you know, if you're not as low HP, because you know the vertical movement always prioritizes over the lateral movement, so we're in a weird position where chinning, scything, and really a lot of things could have done it, but healing you doing this actually caused you to not get the kill. I think. Yeah. Like it 100% would have died right there. And at this point, like you're natty blowpiping it, you could have just thrown a chin, you could have scythed it because it was 7 HP, it is what it is. Probably not scythe actually, you're not potted. So if you're not potted, scratch the scythe, don't bother scything. But we're looking at a 43, 16, 17 entry? 17, 16. 46, 16 predicted time. Early waves, definitely, we're looking pretty crisp. But we lost some time on the mid wave, so. Kind of fucking smoking. We're not even full rotation and it's, okay, well never mind, I'm talking out my ass. Holy fuck. Okay, so I'll respect this blowpipe spec, but personally I don't think this blowpipe spec is worth unless you are like, you need to, I wouldn't bother with this blowpipe spec unless you are 100% spec at the start of TzKal, so like right at the start, and you have like way too much, like 95 or something. Because long range blowpipe specking TzKal is worse than just blowpipe specking the Ranger. As far as I'm aware. I mean, it would make sense to be that way. The likelihood that this long-range blowpipe is significantly better DPS than a blowpipe is probably a little better. I don't think it's that much better, but the gap between that, contrary to just killing your Ranger faster and then being able to T-bow TzKal quicker, like get back on TzKal earlier, is I don't think it's worth. So the main reason you would ever do this long-range blowpipe spec is because you need to get your spec regenning because you're at 100, or if you are going to prevent a set from spawning. So you have to be like, you have to be really low HP. This has to be like assuming you hit an 80 there instead of this, like I would probably dump this spec, but like this is kind of close. Like 730, you're probably gonna get like 2 T-bows. Like, yeah, it can work. Right, like, but even then it was still kind of close, or it was still kind of rough. Like you weren't gonna get that. I think you have better odds just double blowpipe specking the Ranger, especially in a case like this where you also needed the HP. Like you might as well also just farm the heals. Okay, so this is very scary. You know, be a little bit more proactive about what HP you're proccing at. Yeah, you lose a tick here, so this is even scarier, right? Now you're kind of like playing Russian roulette. I don't even think you know whether or not this Jad is going to be on tick or not, right? So you might as well try and stick to what you do know instead of like chancing the 1 in 4. Now obviously not a big deal because it's 1 in 4 still, but you know, it would be nice to, it's always optimal to keep things in your control. The other thing I'd say here too is, actually no, fair enough. Given how your Divine's about to run out in a couple seconds, you definitely should double brew here. But I wouldn't brew like right there. I would brew definitely right after T-bow or whatever. Because then, well, or I'd at least sand view here, because like the fact that you even managed to pass the accuracy roll unpotted to like 80 is like, it's like very, I would consider that very lucky, yes. Just T-bow. Oh, whoa, what? What? Okay. Hey, if it works, it works. Fuck it. Okay, I like the pathing attempt. I do think once again you're a little, maybe it's ADHD, maybe you're a little trigger happy. You have the right idea and then you do things too quickly. You're too trigger happy. Stay here, you can rest. You want this healer, so the whole point of standing here is you want to, you did the shot from here, so the main healer splat targeting you will land there. And by shooting it and standing here, you are protecting yourself from this one, guaranteed. So you will not be hit by this one. You will not be hit by the middle one because the middle one won't get here. But you will also want to spawn the next one here. Because next time you T-bow, you're going to be out of this corner. So you're reducing the odds of this third splat, of this outer splat being in the middle one. So you want to wait here long enough for this splat to land. But because you run here so quickly, you might, like you end up in this position where you get hit by both. Oh my god. Are you good on your prayer? Oh my god. Okay, so let's cover this again. Take some extra damage for it. It's good that you understood the repot. Should have done it earlier. Should have done it right here. That's one of the problems with this time threshold. It's very rough to like. It was good that you double brew Sandfeed because you weren't going to have enough range pot. You needed to range pot right like 5 seconds ago, and it's hard to keep track of that while you're doing your healer tag. So I can, you know, that's a fairly understandable mistake. Bullet pipe specking healers is fair enough. I tend to bullet pipe spec suck, but it is what it is. Yeah, you're kind of in a bad cycle to like dodge, but it works out, you know. That was scary because you finished with 1 prayer point. Respect, honestly, respect. You know, I'll take that. I would say the main if you've managed to watch through the whole run, I think you've heard a few points have definitely been recurring. Your late waves definitely need more work than anything compared to your early, so I would say definitely if you find a run is slow, you should definitely try playing it out no matter what, but I think you're probably doing that anyway because you do want that late wave practice. You lose a lot of ticks in transition, and that I can't tell you anything about that because most of that is solved through practice, through getting used to the nerves of playing 50 plus, through getting used to the nerves and understanding, oh my god, this is fast, but I've been on this pace multiple times, and being able to play under pressure and still maintain composure. So that's just going to come with practicing a lot. So we'll gloss over that, but keep that in mind. One of your main things is you lose a lot of ticks in transition, especially during late waves. The other 2 recurring themes that I can think of off the top of my head are that you tend to, or once you end up in a safe position, you kind of just relax. You just recline, right? And that's the thing. You're not doing everything you can such that if you get lucky, you can capitalize on it. There's so many times where like you've been in a position where you just kind of relax, and I get it, but it's very easy for you to save a lot of time if you just put in a little bit more effort when you're in these times where you can recline. So like right here, pretty good example. Why are you not moving, right? You're too reclined here and it's causing you time. You're reclining even though there's stuff you can do for no cost. And that's what I can say the most. Like, there's no punishment for moving closer to this and preventing a drag. But you didn't do it, and in the future, if you 3-hit this melee, you're gonna lose time to the drag, right? I feel like you stop thinking once you end up in a semi-decent, safe position, and you need to put in the effort to continue thinking and optimizing even when you're in positions like that. And the last one is, I think you get a little too trigger happy. You know what to do, you have a good idea, and then you get a little too proactive, a little excited, and then you do it before you do it too quickly, and then that screws you over. In the future, you know, try to be a little bit more calm and wait for the cues instead of just jumping at it. Because in a wave like this, you didn't want to lose ticks and you just ran out there, and then these 2 blobs are on different cycles, and these 2 are set 2 tick. There's nothing you can do here. You know, we cut over here, and you know, once again, you're like, you have the right idea, but you're just executing it too quickly so that you're not even getting the benefit out of it. And the last thing I would say, definitely watch the I put in a lot of info from 66 to like your single and triple jets. You know, focus on the lateral movement, or focus on the vertical movement instead of the lateral movement. Projectile distance, manage your pillars a little bit better. But those are the three main things I would boil down from this. I think you can definitely shave off a lot of time, and hopefully, God, I feel like I've been talking a while, but yeah, I hope it works out. So, in the future, we might cover some quicker times. Holy Christ, I was not expecting that to be that long. But yeah, I don't know. I gave you a lot of info from things that might be significantly faster than the sub 45 category. So hopefully you can take what you can apply, and things and hopefully we'll see you with a pink color, a little sub 43 action later. So if you guys enjoyed, yeah, feel free to tell me if there's anything to improve on. Otherwise, this is just like a tutoring session. So yeah.